Hey guys, Kgabo here, and today this is another episode of Wrestling and Logic with myself and my co-host Josh Jenkins. Today he's back and he's going to be doing another episode with us. And can you introduce yourself?
I can. I am called Josh Jenkins, otherwise known as Triple J. And this is a second recording of this episode, to be precise about it.
Yesterday's episode that we tried to record had the stench of grisly death on it. It sucked. It really did.
That's one way to describe it.
Yeah, and there's no way we could put that out there. That could be somebody's first episode, and they could say, "Oh, well, these guys don't know how to do a podcast, so I'm not gonna listen to another one of their videos." So luckily, I've still got power here in my home. We actually didn't have a power outage because the rest of the country is having trouble with electricity, but us specifically, we are fine. My province says so. So, by the way, I'm from Cape Town, South Africa. Josh Jenkins is from Wales, Ambrose, Wales, however you pronounce that town. Anyway, so we're going to be talking about Walter versus A-Kid, COVID, Roman Reigns, and more stuff, and miscellaneous other stuff. So first off, we're gonna talk about COVID and people not taking it seriously. I first want to say what I think about this. Last night, after we recorded the first iteration, we had an argument with this guy in our Discord. I will not name him, or he might not be named yet. Josh Jenkins might reveal his name. But we had an argument with him because he said, COVID isn't it, the government is using COVID to scare people, or this is fear mongering, and we shouldn't really take it seriously. The mask is not going to protect us. And by the way, I hope you guys are wearing your masks. I hope you guys are spraying your hands and staying away from other people who can give you COVID, and and all that stuff. So he wasn't taking this seriously, so we had to fight with him all night. And then I kicked him out of the server because it was an opinion. No, it's just being stupid. And if people were just all on the same page and they stayed in their houses and they stayed away from people and they wore masks and they didn't do anything reckless or stupid. Speaking of reckless, back in December, I was hoping that people wouldn't, because it was the festive season, and I was hoping people would take this seriously and not recognize and realize that we are still in a pandemic. And I hope that they wouldn't be stupid and go to parties and slobber and drool over each other and give each other COVID. But They didn't listen to the authorities, and they went out to party. And now we're having in South Africa, we're having a big second wave. Pretty much everybody's having a second wave, and this thing's going all around the place because of these stupid people. These people who are graduating. I even said on Instagram, I warn people. Maybe those people that I warned might have actually did what I said, but some just didn't get the message and they were being stupid and went to party. So now we're in this big mess again. And I'm optimistic about the vaccine. I'm hoping it will be effective and it won't give us any other ailments. Um, Ours is set to come around the second quarter, like April, May, June. I think I may have told you people about that. Uh, but we will get all this COVID hopefully by the end of the year. So yeah, that's what I have to say about people not taking COVID seriously.
Yeah. Do you have anything else to add on there, or?
No, that's all I have to say.
All right then. I think it's fair enough for me to mention his name because we don't actually know his real name. Because I highly doubt Tank is his actual birth name. Like, come on. I think we can mention his username as much as we like. So I think that's safe ground to tread on there. So yeah, the guy who was on the Wrestling and Logic Discord server, which by the way will be linked.
He was on my server too. I kicked him off there too.
Ah, okay, yeah. He was on the Wrestling and Logic Discord server, which, by the way, will be posted in the description box down below. So yeah, go check it out if you want to. If you don't want to, then that's fine. But yeah, you said that we were fighting with him, Kgabo?
We were arguing.
I wouldn't necessarily call it fighting per se, but arguing, I would say that is more correct for it. Or you could say it was a strong disagreement on both sides, really.
Yeah.
But either way you want to look at it, at the end of the day, we were in the right and he was in the wrong. No matter what his opinion is about it, he was in the wrong. Sure, the government might be at fault here for not properly going about the safety precautions about this. Sure, they might not be going about it in the best way possible. I will admit that they are not really handling it very well. But at the same time,
our government is at least trying to keep things. Yeah.
But at the same time, you can't put blame on the government for not making this virus seem like a big deal when you don't do anything to prevent it from happening to to begin with. Like Tank was saying, "Oh, it's not a big deal for me."
And my parents just had this thing. Oh, I don't know if I'm supposed to reveal that. Hopefully they don't hear this. Let's just say some people close to me got it. Yeah. Go on.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Just because Tank doesn't have any experience with it, which, by the way, shocks the fuck out of me. Like, this impacts literally everyone. There isn't a single person this virus has not impacted in a certain way. Be it a economical downfall, be it a loss of job, a loss of income, not being able to meet up with your friends and family like you would normally want to do.
Those that have died.
Yeah, especially those that have died. And he's saying, "Oh, but it's not a big deal." When he was saying all that, it felt like a bullet to the heart. Like, it felt like he wasn't... It felt like he was being very selfish and in it for himself. Which just disappoints me beyond what you could even imagine. People like him are the reason why we are still in this predicament right now, because if people all got along and actually understood what to do to really take care of this issue, we could have dealt with this months ago. But no, people out there want to be fucking stupid.
It's all normal in New Zealand. They getting to have parties and not catch COVID. They are very lucky. Those people in New Zealand.
Yeah. I don't know exactly how they went about handling this situation, but it's good to know that they are mostly back to normal and being safe about it. So, yeah. But it's a shame that the rest of the world isn't able to really comprehend it the same way that, for example, that you just gave, New Zealand has. Yeah, many people out there aren't taking this virus seriously, and we've now experienced that firsthand with Tank from the Discord server. I used to have respect for him, and now I don't give a single shit about him at all. And I know that, and I know that's harsh for me to say, but if you don't give a shit about anybody else, why am I supposed to give a shit about you? Like, okay, to a certain point, Kgabo, I understand where people like him are coming from about this. But at the same time, it's not just about one person. This is affecting the entire planet. This is like the rich wanting to, be greedy, and not giving to the poor when they can. It's basically like that. People aren't wanting to protect others because they feel that they are safe by themselves. This is one big mess. It's a big mess. And unfortunately, Kgabo, I don't think it's going to be cleared out anytime soon because of people like Tank, for example, who are preventing this from being cleared out.
And Jericho, he had a goddamn big concert back in June, July, and endangered
of
like 250,000 people.
of last year in the summer, yeah, when he never should have even done a concert to begin with.
Yeah,
Fucking
idiot.
Exactly. Instead of them being called Fozzy, they should be called Fuzzy because that's how their mindset is.
And they call him Chris Jericho now.
Really?
Yeah, that's what Cornette calls him. Because he spread COVID around.
Yeah, and then he was on the episode of Dynamite just a few days after that, like nothing ever happened.
Only to wrestle Orange Cassidy. Not only did that stunt cause me to lose respect for him, but just working with guys like that and the Matt Hardy stuff, the teleportation and the drones and the dinner debonair and all that bullshit, and that made me lose a whole lot of respect for Chris Jericho, which I never really had to begin with.
No?
I only started watching in August of 2019, and I started to like Jericho back in October, November that year, and then he started doing all this, and yeah, I lost respect for him. But anyway, is that all you have to say about the pandemic?
Oh,
or?
No. People like getting in large groups. For example, in most recent times, Kgabo, the riots at the DC, right?
Yeah.
So many people group together all in one place. Like that is a disaster waiting to happen.
Luckily, all those guys are getting banned from flights and arrested and all that stuff.
Speaking of flights, for God's sake, why are airplanes still traveling about? Why are people still taking flights? I just don't understand this bullshit. Like, it was in the news just yesterday after we finished our first terrible recording. Fucking a flight from Brazil or wherever it was, right? Why? Nobody should be flying anywhere. Fucking what? Oh, stupid people. Like, there should be no flights. People should not be gathering up in groups outside. Like the riots, for example. Nobody should be attending any parties at their houses. Nobody should be fucking...
If I go out with friends, I'll only have 1, 2, or 3 at the most. No more than 3 people I socialize with, like once every few months. And whenever I go to the grocery stores, I always wear my mask, and then before I get into the building, I spray my hands with sanitizer so that I don't really touch that many surfaces now that I think of it. Well, to open the fridge to grab a can of Red Bull or something, I touch the handle, but luckily I sanitize my hands.
Yes, and another point that Tank mentioned that he just doesn't give a shit about is that this isn't fear-mongering. This isn't us being scared to live our lives in the way that we normally would. No, this is us making sure that we have a future to live.
Yeah, and it's respect and courtesy. and protecting each other.
Because that's why, again, I'm going to repeat this. It's not just about one person. It's not just about me. It's not just about you, Kgabo. It's about the entire planet. People just don't understand. And Tank was mentioning about his age group. Like, why does that?
That's what's got us into this mess to begin with. People think just because they're, I don't know, 18 years old, they can go out and do stupid things and spread COVID around just because it doesn't affect them as bad as it does older people. They can still catch it. They may not be sick, but they can still give it to their older family members who are more vulnerable.
Which people like Tank just doesn't seem to understand. What a mess. A fucking mess. People really should be taking this seriously, and they're not. Okay. Some people are, but the majority of people. Okay, in terms of a figure range, I would say perhaps 90% of people out there aren't giving us a shit about this virus.
Well, 90% of people here do give a shit about other people.
Well, I mean, that's debatable. But yeah, probably about 10% do actually care and are trying to do the right thing about this. But that's just the way that I see it, you know. But yeah, wear your masks. I don't give a shit if you feel uncomfortable wearing it. You wear it to be convenient. You wear it to be polite. You wear it to make sure that other people don't catch it from you. And I understand that masks aren't 100% reliable, but at the same time, they are like condoms having sex, right? It is safer to wear a mask than to not wear one. Why are you laughing at that?
I don't know.
But yeah, it's less likely that you'll catch it with wearing a mask than it is you not wearing one. But people just don't seem to grasp the concept of that. But anyway, outside of the travel issue, outside of people gathering for parties and stuff, outside of people, you know, grouping up in random places for random events when they shouldn't be, such as concerts, for example, and the riots and all this other stuff. Yeah, look. Oh, and the vaccine, because I don't think we've mentioned this yet. The vaccine. What do you think of it, Kgabo?
Like I said earlier, I'm optimistic. I'm looking on the bright side. I'm still a little bit cautious to see if it really does work. I'm not just gonna take it the second it comes out. I'm gonna wait to see what other people have to say about it, but I'm confident that it will work, and most people, not everybody will take it, but hopefully enough people will take it to for our country to have what is called herd immunity, where enough of the population is vaccinated, and then hopefully we'll go back to normal.
I'm on a similar approach to this. I'm willing to take the vaccine when I know it's safe enough to do so. But at this point in time, I don't know enough about it to really be injected with it, like right now, for example. The thing that really makes me step back from it just slightly is the really fast amount of time that they've taken to get this out, because vaccines usually take a few years to produce. They've taken about 10 months to maybe a full year at most here. Like the speed at which they've taken to get this out there just isn't really 100% trustworthy to me personally. But I could be proven wrong, and perhaps this is as safe as can be, and it's going to cause no problems. Time will tell. But I am not against taking this vaccine. I just want to point this out there. I'm just a bit cautious, like Kgabo is at this time.
Well, you're a bit more on the cautious side than I am.
Well,
yeah.
And I'm assuming that's about it for the COVID discussion. So
Yeah,
I think we should probably move on now.
I don't have much else to say, to be honest. So.
Oh, and another point that I forgot to mention earlier, that was brought up by Tank in his idiotic opinions about this, is that he's screaming and shouting about not wanting to wear a mask inside of his own home, and he doesn't seem to realise that that's not the issue that we have mainly been bringing up with him. When you go outside is when you should primarily be wearing masks. Well, I mean, you only need to wear one mask. I don't mean masks as in plural. That was a wording error on my part there, but anyway, I'm sure you get my point. Right? There's many people out there who don't seem to understand this. Yeah, if you're in your own home and you don't leave the house, then for you specifically, you don't really need to be wearing one because you're basically keeping yourself isolated from everybody else in your own home. So I can see why you feel you don't want to be wearing one inside of your own home. I understand that. I understand where you're coming from with that. But at the same time, let's just say under a extreme circumstance that somebody else who is living in the same home that you are goes out, gets infected, and then comes back into the house that you are in, wearing a mask then would still be pointless, because at that point in time you would have already captured the virus from the one who idiotically got infected and brought it in. The only time that you realistically need to leave the house at all during the time of this pandemic is to go to the grocery store, which I think is what it's called in the US. Here it's called a shop in the UK. Well, I mean, some people refer to it as a supermarket. But regardless of that, whatever word you want to use to call that place, the only time that you should realistically be leaving the house is to go out and gather your food supply for the month, for your monthly shopping needs and requirements. outside of that, you really shouldn't be leaving the house for any reason. Yeah. And as well as that, Tank, I just want to point out here that you say that this virus has nothing to do with you, so therefore you're not going to give a single shit about the virus. Well, I don't know how to break this to you, a Tank, but every single person on this planet has been and will continue to be impacted by this virus. Let's put this, for example, to you here. Before this pandemic hit us, you would usually go out of the house to go anywhere you want, to do anything you want at any time that you want, right? But now that's not really an option for you to be able to do, right? So that in a way has impacted you to do that. So you can't tell me that it's got nothing to do with you when it does. It has something to do with me. It has something to do with Kgabo. It has something to do with you, including everybody else. There's not one person that this virus doesn't impact, that this pandemic doesn't impact. There's not one person. So don't give me the, oh, woe is me, I haven't been impacted by this in any way, so therefore this has nothing to do with me. Yes, it does. It absolutely does have something to do with you. You remember when you posted the image of you attending that NFL game somewhere in Texas a while back? Oh well, I don't think you're able to do that now, are you? Or you're not stupid enough to go attend those games now, surrounded by other people. Yeah, like sporting events such as those, like people should not be attending those shows. AEW, right, has opened the attendance for a crowd to be there. No, that shouldn't be happening at all. In fact, WWE, AEW, New Japan, blah blah blah, all these wrestling companies, right? They should have closed, well, not closed down, but they should have gone on hiatus last year, back in March, like 10 months ago. They shouldn't be doing any of these shows right now. They shouldn't have done any of the shows over the past 10 months. This is ridiculous. And Tank, for you to say it has nothing to do with you, yes, it absolutely does. So don't give me the selfish act here. Don't give me this bullshit attitude here. It absolutely does.
Anyway, now we're gonna do a review of 2 matches from New Japan's Wrestle Kingdom 15 event that happened earlier this month. And by the way, because of the second wave, schools for us will only open on the 15th of February. So yay, get another month of holidays. So anyway, back to this. We have Great Okan versus Hiroshi Tanahashi. So first of all, I want to say here that Tanahashi looks to me, and he acts like a Japanese version of Cody Rhodes, a determined, cocky babyface. And Great Okan, on the other hand, he looks pretty intimidating. He can do some good shit. He's got a little bit of a goofy gimmick / entrance, but he's good, pretty good for a guy who apparently was never a wrestling fan. they have a somewhat good wrestling match until they went on the outside. Now, fast forward. They finally got back in the ring, and then Tanahashi hit his finish, which I liked because it's simple. It's basically just a frog splash off the top rope. I like having guys when they have just simple finishes and not too complicated and convoluted. You can just hit it and the match is over. And speaking of, this match went by pretty quick, which I appreciated. It didn't go too long because not every wrestling match has to be the greatest match ever. Not every wrestling match has to go 30 minutes. Not every wrestling match has to have the most moves. Sometimes you just have to go out there and have a decent match and just get to the point. And for this match, I'll give wrestling an 8 and logic for 6 because they went on the outside. And I hate when they do that in every match. So what do you think about this?
I still haven't seen the Wrestle Kingdom pay-per-view, so therefore I haven't seen any of these two matches that you are about to discuss here. But I will say that this does sound like a match I should probably check out because you seem to like it, and we have a similar.
Well, it's not great, but it was okay. You don't need to watch it if you don't want to, but if you just want something quick to watch, you can watch this.
Yeah. Yeah, but as I was saying, you and Kgabo seem to have a similar taste for wrestling. I think that's fair enough to say. And usually when I like a match, you usually like it, and when you like a match, I usually like it. That's not to say that that is the case all the time, but usually I seem to find out that it is. So yeah, I will watch this match at some point. I just haven't got around to it yet. And you don't like them going onto the outside. I agree to a certain point. I don't like it when they are on the outside for longer.
Which we will see in which we will rip apart in the next match.
I don't like when they are outside of the ring longer than what the 10 count is supposed to be. But yeah, if they are on the outside for under that actual count of 10, then I don't mind them being outside because it builds up the drama of the 10 count. But outside of that, I don't really like when they're outside for fucking way too long. Like, no, get in the fucking ring. That's where you're supposed to be.
Fucking idiots. Anyway, speaking of next match, we have a special single match with Kazuchika Okada versus Will Ospreay with B. Priestley. Ospreay comes out with his girlfriend, B. Priestley, who's, to be honest, is a better wrestler than a boyfriend and a better worker. And apparently he's a heel. It doesn't appear like that to me. He's playing heel just like Gargano. And he's also carrying another belt, another promotion's belt, which I didn't like either. But anyway, the bell rang and the match started. They did a lockup, and then I already started to hate this. They started doing the punch you, punch me, punch you, punch me deal, and I don't like it. I hate when they do that. I fast forward, and I don't know what's with this thing. Is it a trend in Japan or something? I don't get it. And so I fast forward, and then what did I see? The guys are on the floor. This match already stinks. And then they're already on the floor for 6 minutes. And they finally get back into the ring. Ospreay's trying to work like a heel, but he can't. He looks phony. Um, so he's trying to be a heel, and I said again that not only is his girlfriend a better wrestler, but a better worker. I've seen her do heel stuff, and she's much better. Now Okada is answering back, but now this made me shut the whole thing off. Ospreay was on the apron, and then he hit a phenomenal forearm on Okada, which now makes it look useless, and it looks phony now when AJ Styles does it, because that's his finish. Now that Ospreay used it as another move, now I'm saying this guy's green and he needs to learn. He's got a lot to learn. He can't go to AEW just yet, because if he goes there, they won't teach him anything. They'll only give him worse habits. And then I said, I'm done. This stunk. Wrestling 0, logic 0. So what do you think about that?
Is this the first time you've ever rated a match 0?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That says quite a lot then. Because I don't know if I've personally ever rated a match 0. I'm thinking back to my close to 13 years now. Jesus, that is a long time of watching wrestling, and I don't think I've ever rated a match completely 0 before. So that is very interesting that you've done that here.
Yeah.
But I have rated the logic of a match 0 like millions of fucking times. This seems to be a match that isn't necessarily needed for me to watch, but I might see it at some point if I choose to. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But do you know, in these 6 minutes that you've said that they were on the outside for, they would legitimately be counted out at the very least 30 times.
Yeah.
At the very least 30 times in 6 minutes. Just think about how fucking raging that is. Especially to somebody like me who actually cares about the rules of the matches.
You would be hot
Jesus.
if you saw them fighting outside like that.
Yeah, it just makes me think back to Chris Jericho against John Moxley at the Revolution pay-per-view in 2020 when they were on the outside for like 10 minutes.
10 minutes? Oh my gosh.
Well, it felt like that anyway. But yeah, fucking, it was ridiculous.
And the Omega Moxley match in December, they were on the outside for like 5 minutes. Or 3, I don't know.
Chris Jericho had a match last year against Hiroshi Tanahashi, actually. And I believe they were on the outside for a certain amount of time. And when Chris Jericho faced Kenny Omega in 2019 at Wrestle Kingdom 13, I think? Because I think this is the 15th one.
Yeah.
So 15, 14, yeah. So yeah, Wrestle Kingdom 13, they were on the outside for quite a while. I don't know why New Japan does this, but they do it quite often where they wrestle on the outside longer than the count is supposed to be. It's very, very strange, but it's the way that they go about it, and it really pisses me off. Referee leniency is also a massive issue that I have. And it happens frequently, especially in AEW, when it happens like every single week. Are you still there, Kgabo?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. But yeah, Wrestle Kingdom 15, those two matches that you've discussed here with me are matches that I might see if I choose to, but I don't really need to. I'll quickly mention this now before we move on, and I'll try and not sound as stupid as I did yesterday about this. You mentioned earlier about Will Ospreay using the phenomenal forearm, which is one of AJ Styles' finishers. Wrestling is a very repetitive thing, and most moves that somebody does in a match in WWE, for example, would be done all over again in another match in New Japan Wrestling or AEW or Ring of Honor. Like the powerbomb, for example, somebody will use that as a finisher and somebody else will use that as just a regular move. The DDT, for example, somebody will use that as the finisher and somebody else will use that as just a regular move. The frog splash, for example, somebody will use that like Seth Rollins does from time to time as a regular move, and somebody else like Hiroshi Tanahashi and Montez Ford will use that as a finisher. Moves in wrestling are very, I'm going to use the word transparent.
Did I mention?
But I don't know.
Did I mention that I would fire him if he did that and AJ Styles was in the same company? Yeah.
I would have a much bigger issue than you have about this if they were in the same company, because the movesets that somebody has shouldn't be exactly the same, but at the same time there are certain moves that basically everyone at some point is going to do, like a body slam or a suplex or a clothesline or a drop kick or a hurricanrana, depending on your size. There are certain moves that everyone is going to do, and there's no hiding away from that. But there are certain moves, which I agree with Kgabo to a certain extent, that should be exclusive to certain people. But is that the way things are? No. Is that the way things should be? Yeah. And I'll just move on now before I mess this up like I did yesterday.
Okay. Now, this was supposed to be the main event, but we're gonna have a main event. We are both going to do a deep dive on Roman Reigns and his heel run and his tribal chief character. This is gonna be quite a big one. So yeah.
Are we doing the A-Kid versus Walter then as the main event of this episode, or?
Yes.
Okay. I'll let you start off with the Roman Reigns thing as you brought it up first.
So, what I think of Roman Reigns. So, Roman Reigns came back in August last year at SummerSlam, and he he came in and speared Braun Strowman, and by the way, Braun Strowman deserves it because needs help mentally, and he also speared. I almost said Drew McIntyre, but it was the Fiend that he speared. He did have a match with Drew McIntyre, which I really enjoyed back in November. And people, but I didn't know yet if he was a heel or he was just coming back as a babyface. It wouldn't have made sense if he was still a babyface, or it would have, and then we could have seen him turn heel, which you had a big problem with, which is why you still hate him. And I didn't really see him as a heel yet until he joined up with Paul Heyman, which I had a little bit of a problem with. So then later, a few weeks after that, he joined up with Paul Heyman. He was gonna be Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman was gonna be his manager. I don't really think he needs a manager because he can cut good promos by himself, and Paul Heyman doesn't even do that much anyway to help Roman Reigns. It's all Jey Uso. Paul Heyman is just there from most of what I have seen of Roman Reigns, so I don't think Paul Heyman needed to be there. And now they've made it whole fiasco because who's gonna be with Brock Lesnar when he eventually comes back? So I don't think he really needs a manager. But that aside, everything he's done since then has been phenomenal. It has been great. I love the promos he's cut. I love the stars that he's put over. Well, Jey Uso, he's made him. He tried to make him look like a star, but they won't book him as such, from what I'm hearing. And Kevin Owens, they're making him finally to look like a star, and apparently they're fixing to make Shinsuke Nakamura a babyface again. Who should have been a star by now, but the goofy writers had their way and buried him in 2018 with the shitty booking. Imagine if Vince Russo didn't get in the business. He's the reason why this business is in the state that it's in. And not Vince McMahon, but another Vince Russo, shit stain as some people call him. If he didn't get in the business, we wouldn't be mad at half the things that go on in the WWE and in the business. But anyway, I've enjoyed a lot of what he's done, especially his match with Drew McIntyre at Survivor Series. I loved that match. It was so good. And it had me jumping out of my seat. And, this is so good. And we'll talk about that later. So from up to now, I've enjoyed Roman Reigns' performance, the wrestling and performance side of Roman Reigns here. On the logic, on the other hand, Josh will talk about right now. So
I just want to quickly mention that Paul Heyman being aligned with Roman Reigns is similar to when Paul Heyman was aligned with CM Punk. CM Punk never needed Paul Heyman because Punk could do the promos by himself.
yeah,
They had Paul be with Punk just for the sake of it, really. And I feel that is the same thing here. Roman can do the promos by himself when not scripted by Vince. Suffering suck, that's my ass.
Vince McMahon and that little chicken Bruce Pritchard. Me and Rel Sucker make fun of him and call him Bruce Chicken Wings because he looks like Colonel Sanders. I've told that story. Yeah. In a past episode.
He does. Perhaps you could even show the image here just to get that point across. Roman doesn't need Paul Heyman to be with him, but Heyman is with him just for the sake of it. Just like CM Punk, Paul Heyman is being paired with Roman Reigns just for the sake of it. Not because it makes logical sense, but just because. Maybe because Paul Heyman needs a job that bad. Well, if he really needed that job that bad, then he wouldn't have left the executive role of. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that bullshit right now.
Bruce fucked him out of that position.
No, Vince McMahon did because he couldn't accept Paul Heyman disagreeing with him most of the time. But Vince can happily fucking have Bruce there because Bruce fucking accepts everything that Vince wants him to do, where Paul Heyman was against most of what Vince wanted him to do.
He at least tried to make Raw bearable to watch.
Yes and no. He tried to push Future Stars, which I was for, but he didn't really get there because he wasn't really allowed to in full to do that. He was restricted to a certain point by Vince. And he's to fucking retire.
And his goofy writers who should all be fired.
Yeah, okay, I will eventually get to the Roman Reigns, right? Believe me. The writers is a problem because they are writing these wrestling shows being Raw and SmackDown like they are TV shows on like a movie, for example, or like a
reality
weekly
show.
Episodic or like a weekly episodic TV show like The Simpsons, for example. They don't write these shows like it's an actual wrestling show. They write it like it's a reality drama, which is bullshit because they need to be removed and be replaced by actual wrestling bookers. Because, the wrestling business needs to have that in order to survive.
Put
being a wrestling business.
Put wrestling back in World Wrestling Entertainment. Fire the writers, bring back bookers.
Like it was originally being done with Pat Patterson and Vince McMahon at Vince's house at the pool. I mean, they would be discussing how to book the shows and they would do it that way. But now, ever since Vince saw an episode of Friends, he was like, damn it, we have got to defeat Friends in the ratings. Well, SmackDown has got to be more like a TV show. Damn it, I am going to hire writers. I am going to hire the Hollywood production team. I am going to do this because this is entertainment. No, it's a wrestling show. No, it's not a show. It's a program. God damn it, I did it again. Holy shit. It's a program. God damn it. But that's what Vince did, and that's what he continues to do to this very day.
Yes.
And that is also to a certain point, that is also what AEW is doing. Even though they have their wrestlers being Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega, doing some of the booking for AEW, which is apparently the case. I don't know if that's actually true.
And Tony Khan, that's why it sucks so bad. They need one guy being a booker that has experience and knows when to put his foot down.
Yes. But is that what's happening? No. Is that what needs to happen?
Yes.
Right. Roman Reigns. I will say this in this way. Roman Reigns currently now is on a heel run in which is very confusing to me, because we don't know exactly how it is that he became a heel to begin with. And the reason I say this is quite simple. The fact that we haven't seen him do his heel turn is making me question how he is a heel now. We never saw how he turned heel, why he turned heel, where he turned heel at, when he turned heel. All these questions come to mind that will never get an answer to. And even if all these questions were to be answered this Friday on SmackDown, which is I think tonight,
yeah,
it would be too late. It would be too late. And it wouldn't mean a damn thing anymore to me. It's too late to answer these questions now. These questions should be answered on day one. The heel turn never happened, so I'm not going to invest in what he's doing now as a heel. I appreciate him having a new switch of character, because I never really got on board with what he was doing previously as a face, because I just didn't agree with his character direction. I actually much prefer him what he's doing now, but the issue I have with this is that I can't get invested in what he's doing now because his heel turn got skipped over, and I'll never understand why they did that. Because the last time that we actually saw him before SummerSlam, like Kgabo, was a few weeks before WrestleMania 36. Now, the main reason that he didn't show up to do the match against Goldberg for the Universal Championship at WrestleMania 36, which was originally the plan for them to do, is because Roman didn't want to... Roman wanted to stay home because of this COVID-19 issue that was happening at that time. Well, or beginning to happen. I don't know when this thing started per the thing, but it was around March of last year when this pandemic first, hit us, really. So Roman didn't show up, and Braun Strowman was his replacement, like a pick out of a hat. Pathetic choice, and it did make sense why Braun was. Anyway, so Roman was a face, having dog shit matches with Baron Corbin for a few months before that, right? And now all of a sudden he comes back, and we are expected to believe that he's a face, that he's a bully, that he's the head of the table, the dominating one at the top. Like, what the fuck? How do you get from point A to point D without showing us point B and C along the way? Hello? Like that's like the scene from Wonder Woman 1984, which is a fucking terrible movie, by the way, where Wonder Woman flew that plane with her dead boyfriend or whatever, and they went from somewhere in America to Cairo in Egypt or wherever that they were going in like a few seconds. Like, no, you can't just skip the travel itself to get to the destination. You need to show us the travel happening to get to where you're going. You don't show us why Roman wants to turn heel, why he's motivated to now switch up his character, why he wants to align all of a sudden with Paul Heyman, which never made sense to begin with. Why you don't show us the why. You don't build the heel turn up. You don't build the turn of him going from the face that he was to the heel that he is now. I'm not going to give a shit about it. This is the best that Roman has ever looked in his entire career. I will admit to that, Kgabo. But the logic of how he become this is at a zero. And also, to answer your question about Brock Lesnar, and Paul Heyman and all of that, it's quite simple. Paul Heyman will still manage Brock Lesnar. He can still manage Roman Reigns at the same time if he wants to, but that just brings up the whole question about how this makes sense, and it doesn't, and it never will. But that is what they'll probably do anyway, because they don't give a shit about if it makes sense or not. They just give a shit about what they want to do to please Vince. I'll just end it at that, because my main issue with Roman Reigns is how he turned heel, why he turned heel, when he turned heel, where he turned heel, why did he align with Paul Heyman, how did he align with Paul Heyman, why did Paul Heyman accept himself to align with Roman Reigns? None of these questions were answered. None of these questions have even been brought up outside of me. Everybody else is on the hype train, like JD from New York, for example. He's accepting this for what it is. He's not questioning about how he's a heel now, why he's a heel now. No, he's just saying, "Oh, this is great. I've always wanted Roman to turn heel. I've been telling them to do this for at least the past 5 years. This is great." But JD's not questioning, "Oh, well, hang on a second. How did he turn heel? Why did he turn heel?" JD's not doing that. Guess what? I am, because I actually care about the logic, about the storylines and the character progressions and all of this stuff. I care, okay? And it really pisses me off that people out there don't seem to care, and they just go along with it because it's what they are being shown. Those people who accept it for what it is and don't question anything. You know what I mean, Kgabo?
Yeah, Ryan Satin's.
What has he said about this?
No, people like him. Is that who you're referring to?
Well, I don't know what he said, so.
Whatever, man. So now.
No, but I mean, like, people who accept the shows for what they are and they don't question about if it makes sense or not.
Like
those people.
Oh yeah, so the people who knock you if you say this doesn't make sense or this sucked.
What? Mike, you've blocked people for doing that a lot of times on Twitter, right?
Yeah,
So
I blocked like 80 people.
right, so
And
you understand.
and a large percentage of that are people who just say stupid shit.
Right, so you understand where I'm coming from here, then.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, for example, the dinner debonair thing. I think that's what it was called.
We talked about that.
I know, but I'm just using this here as an example. Many people out there enjoyed it because they were entertained about it. But guess what? Those people who were entertained about it, they never questioned if this makes any sense or not. Did they? No, they did not.
They didn't.
But people like me and you did.
And I wasn't even mad about if it made sense or not. I was mad about it because it was goofy and it made the business look ridiculous. Did you see what the New York Times said about this?
No?
They said that Chris Jericho and MJF should be embarrassed, but Chris Jericho said, hey, I'm in the New York Times. Look what they said. But then people are telling this. They're telling you to. They're not praising you, dummy. They're making fun of you.
This isn't Strictly Come Dancing, which is a competition show that we have here in the UK. This is professional fucking wrestling.
You do wrestling. You don't do stupid stuff like that.
Or you know, as Kenny Omega puts it, the art or the
No, it's not an art. It's a sport. That's where people are wrong about this.
I mean,
and you treat it as such.
I mean, there are certain matches that I feel are very artistic in a way, in terms of it looking fantastic and making sense and all of that. And I feel like this is a real highlight of wrestling for being wrestling. But outside of that, no.
Yeah.
For example, Walter against A-Kid, which we are now going to move on to.
No, we're going to talk about something before that.
Oh, okay. But I'll finish my point here before I let you speak. Walter against A-Kid can be considered art in terms of painting a true depiction of what wrestling is supposed to be on that wrestling canvas.
The psychology of the match, the story that was told.
Yes, but is it art in terms of what art is? No. People have a deluded way of depicting what art is and what art isn't. Somebody could draw scribbles on the wall right next to me here and call it art. You know, like people have a very deluded way of calling what art is art and what art isn't art. Anyway, over to Kgabo.
Have you heard the breaking news about what Charlotte said? Charlotte Flair.
I have now since yesterday. Yes.
So
but when
she's talking about how she saw this. There was this article about how they were ripping on how she came back and instantly won the women's tag team championships. And then they said she's gonna get a lot of heat for this. And then she saw it and got mad and started ranting and whining like Lewis Hamilton about how this is wrong. Let me educate her about this, and she was talking bullshit about. I'm trying to find articles of you talking shit about the male champions who coming in and challenging for the title. Goldberg just did that. Did she not see Goldberg and when he came back? No, she's just trying to make it as if these people are being sexist. That's something I really hate about some of these wrestlers, is that whenever they get criticized, they use racism or sexism or homophobia as an escape, as a shield from criticism, and I find that very cowardly. Um, just admit that you suck and you should find another line of work instead of making our business look like crap. So yeah, and she says how she'll always be in the title picture, and not sure how much sense that makes. Eventually she'll have to go away and retire. I'm not wishing death on her. By no means am I doing that. I'm just saying she'll eventually have to retire sometime in the next few years. She's 35 years old, so at least we don't have to see her for much longer.
Yeah, you say that, but realistically, she could, if she plays it safe enough, be around for at least another 10 years. It is possible that she could, but will she? Time will tell. The same thing goes for like Bayley, Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair, Naomi. You know, they could realistically still be wrestling in 10 years' time. It just depends on how they go about it, you know, and it also depends on the level of injuries they pick up along the way. It really does depend on that. But yeah, time will tell. Charlotte Flair always being in the championship picture. She shouldn't be, but she's being forced to because of a certain agenda which people seem to not understand. Because we say she's getting all these accolades in WWE because of her last name being Flair is basically true. I mean, nobody else really has been given the rocket strap like she has in the women's division. Like, who else can you name, Kgabo, that has basically been on the level that Charlotte has been on in terms of women's wrestling?
Really, nobody else, to be honest.
I mean, Ronda Rousey, right, who is a former UFC women's fighter, right? Even she hasn't been fucking pushed to the moon like Charlotte has. Like that says a lot, you know. Like, Jesus. But yeah, Charlotte always being in the title picture is sadly true. I mean, case in point, the TLC pay-per-view last month. She came back from being away for a few weeks or possibly even a few months. I don't know how long she was gone for. I wasn't really paying attention to her, really. She came back, and the first thing she does is be in a fucking title picture with Asuka, and she becomes the new women's tag team champions on her first night back, on her first match back. it never made any sense, Kgabo. Like, she had nothing to do with the ongoing storyline that was happening between Lana, Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax, and Asuka over the past 3 months, and yet she gets inserted just like that. Like, fuck off. That doesn't make any sense. No, nobody should be able to excuse this. Like, it doesn't make any sense. She can't just be inserted into the storyline just like that for no reason. Okay, sure, you could say, oh well, Asuka was looking for a new for a new tag partner. This was an open challenge for anybody to team up with Asuka. I got there in the end. You could make that excuse all you want, but fucking Charlotte Flair had nothing to do with any of this. And now, what's going to happen with Lana? Like, who was the
sympathetic figure?
Why can't I think of that word every time? The sympathetic baby face. Why are you laughing at that for?
Because you forgot it 3 times.
I did, yeah. Well, technically 4 times now. Yeah, Lana was being built up as the sympathetic babyface for the past 3 months, right? With Nia Jax climbing her through the Okay, Kgabo, what do you call it? The announce table or the commentary table?
Announce table.
Okay.
And while you rant, I'm gonna go have a moment of piss. So I'll be back.
Okay. Lana got slammed through the announce table 9 times, being 9 weeks in a row on Raw. And this was being done to build her up as the sympathetic babyface to actually take down Nia Jax in revenge at some point. Lana did get a pinfall win against Nia Jax on Raw at some point a few weeks ago, I think. But this tag team match was supposed to be Lana's shining moment, taking down Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, being the bullies that they have been portrayed to be against Lana this entire time, and yet Lana gets sidelined by a storyline injury that Vince decided to give her at the last second, and now she got replaced by Charlotte Flair, who had nothing to do with what is going on with any of this. Now, is Lana going to get her revenge against Nia Jax? I don't know. Maybe they can salvage this by having Lana somehow eliminate Nia from the Royal Rumble or and then maybe a match on the Fastlane pay-per-view or the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, whatever. But I don't think that's going to happen here, so we'll see how it goes. Hello, Kgabo, you are back.
Yes.
I have finished going on about this. I mentioned that Lana could perhaps get her revenge on Nia Jax that she hasn't really got. Well, I mean she did, because she did pin Nia Jax on that match on Raw a few weeks ago, so technically she has got her revenge. But I was mentioning just now that Lana could eliminate Nia Jax from the Royal Rumble as a shocking elimination, and that way. But I don't know. I just don't see that being the case. Anyway, let's finally move on to the main event, being A-Kid against Walter for the NXT United Kingdom Championship that happened yesterday, I think?
Last night it happened.
On NXT UK, of course.
Okay, so now we're finally doing Walter versus A Kid.
Which I have actually seen now. So
this was a good match, but it didn't get the reaction that I wanted it to get out of me. Like Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre. Both guys were great, but I just wasn't jumping out of my seat like I wanted to. But nevertheless, it was a good match and it made sense, and they did some good stuff. So we have Walter versus A Kid, and A Kid comes out with his a Heritage Cup, which he won a few weeks ago. And then Walter comes out and he's the champion. So then they're having their match and they're doing their stuff. And I love Walter and I like A Kid. Walter, he works like he does and does big guy stuff. Gives him big boots and chops and clubbing blows and all that stuff that he usually does. He's a good worker. He's a good heel. Big, giant bully. There he is on my wall over there. If you haven't seen him, and then the announcers say that Walter is crazy about the lineage or heritage of wrestling. In that case, he might as well go to AEW and beat up half the locker room, because most of those guys have disrespected the lineage and heritage of wrestling. So I'm pretty sure he would have fun beating up all those guys. And then Walter did this thunderous chop across A Kid's chest, and A Kid sold like crazy. And then later in the match, Walter had A Kid in a sleeper hold, but then he escaped with an arm drag and gave Walter a really good looking drop kick. And then later in the match, Walter hit his finish for the win, and this match was great. Wrestling 10, logic 10. That was great.
You have anything else to add on before I say my part, or?
No, that's it. Other than the fact that I really like these two guys, if I had Walter, I'd push him to the moon to be my top heel. If I had A Kid, I'd make him be a sympathetic babyface and sell and get people behind him so that he can one day get revenge on Walter and take the championship away from him.
Fair enough. Just like I've never in my 9 no, I think 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Yeah. Just like in my very near 13 years of watching wrestling, I've never given a match for the actual in-ring wrestling a 0 out of 10, and at the same time, on the other side of that, I've never given any match a 10 out of 10. Because there's no such thing as a perfect match, and this was actually quite far away from a perfect match in my opinion.
And everything that they did, it made sense. The guys sold, A-Kid looked like he could one day actually get revenge and get one back on Walter, and he did some good looking stuff here, and he did his kicks and strikes, and I liked it. The wrestling was good and it made sense.
Sure, but it wasn't a 10 out of 10 to me personally. I would probably give it a 6, maybe a 7, but that's the highest that I'll go for it. The logic is quite close to 10, if not a full 10. This was a good match. I'm not going to go about it move for move here. I don't need to. But what I liked most about this match, Kgabo, is that A-Kid was targeting Walter's left or right leg, and that was his primary target, to take Walter down, and to try and beat him that way.
Yes.
And I really enjoyed the psychological aspect about that, because it's like trying to take that down a tree. You have to take down the what do you call it, the trunk or the
trunk.
You have to cut down the trunk first in order for the tree to tilt over and collapse. So taking out the leg is a way of making the opponent tilt down and collapse, and giving you the advantage. That was very good. What do you call it? Psychological psychological mindset there from A-Kid in this match that I really appreciated, because there's not many wrestlers out there in the current day and age that actually do that, Kgabo. So this was very surprising to actually see him do that in this match. And I actually gained quite a bit of respect because of that. So yeah, what do you think about Walter's finisher? And before you say your thing about this, I like that Walter is able to use a simple clothesline as a way to end the match, because he has the size and the strength to do it, unlike somebody like Kazuchika Okada, for example, who doesn't have the size or the strength to really make a clothesline seem like the end of the match. I don't like Okada using the clothesline as the finisher, but I do like Walter using it as a way to end a match, because it makes sense for somebody like Walter to knock somebody out with the clothesline, but Okada doing it, no, it doesn't really make much sense to me. So what do you think about Walter using the clothesline as a finisher?
I like it because it's simple, and not only does it look good, but it's just simple. Everybody these days likes to do all these big, high impact finishes, like Kenny Omega and his one-winged angel, or Cody and his crossroads, or who else?
Ricochet with his 630 spinning
Ricochet
thing.
I forgot about him.
Well, of course you have. WWE have forgotten about him as well. But yeah, Walter using the clothesline is very effective because he makes it seem like a devastating move, whereas somebody like Okada doesn't. Okada treats it like art.
So basically, it looks phony when Okada does it.
I'm not saying it looks ridiculous when Okada does it. It just doesn't have that sense that he's going to end the match because he's the one doing it. You know, because the size and strength really does and really should come into factor about if a move is powerful enough, especially in the way that you perform it.
What about
and done with?
What about Hangman Page's lariat? That looks really good.
Yes, Hangman has the Hangman is like water in that regard. Sure, he might not be
as big
of a size, but Hangman seems to have the strength to really pull it off. And also, Hangman performs it in a way that makes you believe in
the guys,
his finisher.
And most of the guys that take it sell for it nicely.
Yes. If you can make me believe in any move that you're doing, then that's a step in. That's a right. Oh, that's a step in. No. How do I say this line?
That's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, that line. Why was that so hard to say? Jesus. Yeah. If you can make me believe in what you're doing in the way that you're performing any move, it could be a body slam, it could be a 5-star frog splash, it could be a big boot, it could be a DDT, it could be a triangle choke submission move. I don't give a shit what move you're doing. It matters to me how you're doing it, how much you're making me believe in how you're doing it. It matters the way you sell the move. It matters how your opponent. It matters as well greatly how your opponent sells the move that you're doing, because you could put in as much impact to the move as you want, but if your opponent isn't really selling it in the way that they should be, then that in a way devalues the emphasis that you're putting on to that move. So in a way, your opponent is also a factor if the move is going to be impactful or not, and if I'm going to believe in it or not. And that is wrestling. That is literally what wrestling is all about. If you and your opponent can make me believe in the moves that you are doing to one another, then that is great, because that means I am invested. That means I care about how the match is going along. That means I care about the finish of the match. You get where I'm going with this?
Yes.
Like, it's very simple, but most wrestlers out there, especially now, they don't do this. They go out there with this mentality of okay, I need to pop the crowd with with a flip. I need to do all these high flying stuff just for the sake of it, because I'll get
and those people will get tired of seeing those moves every match. And what's left to do now when they're not interested anymore? That's called hot-shotting.
Yes. And yeah.
How many greatest matches ever can you have? That's a problem I have with Kenny Omega. How many greatest matches can he have before people get tired?
That's debatable to a certain point. But there's no such thing as a greatest match of all time. There's
the quality is you can't have that quality type of match every week.
Oh no, you can't. No, you absolutely can't. No, because those types of matches should be on special occasions.
Like pay-per-views or TV or special TV episodes.
Yes. Or as a very nice surprise here and there. I agree with you, Kgabo. Having a 5-star match every single week is fucking pointless. I'm in favor of trying to do the best match that you can every time you're in the ring, but that doesn't mean you need to go all out at the same time in order to do that.
Sometimes you just have to go out there to have a match, and that's it.
Sometimes you could do only 4 moves, and it could be better than the other match that is happening on the show that has like 20 moves. It all depends on how you perform those moves and make me believe what you're doing. I don't think I can say it any simpler than that, really. So is there anything else that you want to discuss here, Kgabo, or are we done for this episode?
Yeah, we're pretty much done for this episode. I have to go eat now because my dad's going to be hot at me if I eat later than 8 o'clock. So we'll have to get out of here now. So this episode was okay. It was much better than yesterday's recording.
Oh, much better.
But I feel like the content wasn't that much, to be honest. We didn't get the epic rant from Josh that we did the other time, but it was fun for what it was. So we will see you next week. This podcast will be going on all audio platforms shown below. On the 17th of January, that's when Josh is able to fix that up. So
which is about
Sunday,
2 or 3 days from right now, because it's now the 15th. So 15, 16, 17. It'll be here before you know it.
Yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. You can follow me on my socials. You can go subscribe to both of our channels. We will hopefully have better content for next week. But until then, this is Kgabo and Josh Jenkins signing out.
And wear your masks, please.